Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the weekly MMA Cycles Market Update. Today is Wednesday, the 13th of November, 2024, and I am Gianni DePoce, your host. We're still seeing stocks and cryptocurrencies display some really positive price action, and this morning we just had another inflation report that came in at estimates. So let me go ahead and share my screen, and we can start by looking at the Dow Jones. Which is a couple of days off from its all-time high on Monday. We did hit a new all-time high in this index, actually satisfying one of our upside price objectives that we were sharing in the reports here at MMA Cycles. So we are in this reversal time period. We're getting late in some cycles, but there still may be some upside momentum left in the tank here, especially when you consider the geocosmic situation right now. So going into this weekend, we're going to kick it off with an opposition between Sun and Uranus. And that's going to be on Saturday. And then on Monday, you're going to have the Sun form a trine to Neptune. So Sun trine Neptune could lend itself to some feelings of euphoria. Sun opposite Uranus is really a classical breakout signature, and it's especially important for the technology sector because Uranus rules tech and it rules breakouts here. So you can make a pretty strong argument that we're seeing a bull flag technical pattern here, which is really rare to see at an index level, but it is one of the most bullish price patterns that we observe in technical analysis. So I would definitely continue to keep an eye on that. And of course, going into next week, we are going to enter a new era for good. Pluto will be ingressing into the sign of Aquarius on the 19th, meaning that we're not going to go back into the sign of Capricorn when it comes to Pluto for another 200 plus years. So we're really entering a new era, moving from the themes of Capricorn business corporations more towards an individual level. So we'll see if those themes play out accordingly, but the NASDAQ and technology does seem poised to capture a majority of that. You know, we had talked about Tesla in these videos recently, and we saw a massive move to the upside in this stock. So I think that with Jupiter still in Gemini, and then, you know, with Uranus going into Gemini next year, I don't expect this move to really stop anytime soon. We'll keep an eye on it. But I think it's definitely a nice opportunity for traders looking at some alternative options. And then, of course, you have the uranium sector, which is trying to do well. Something to consider with Pluto moving into the sign of Aquarius. Obviously, Pluto ruling a radioactive element in plutonium, Uranus being the modern ruler of Aquarius, ruling uranium. So something to keep an eye on, as a lot of these artificial intelligence data centers are pivoting towards nuclear energy to power their data centers. So there's a big energy demand, and you're seeing nuclear kind of make its way back into the picture at a macroeconomic level. Let's take a look at long-term bonds. You are seeing that sell-off today, even though inflation came in at estimates. We hit the expectation both on the monthly and the annual level. We are entering a really interesting time band. And, you know, if we do make a new low next week with Pluto set to change signs, be on the lookout for a potential reversal in bonds. It is rather unusual from a historical standpoint to see interest rates rise and bonds sell off the way that they have been, especially following rate cuts. So the Fed cut rates another 0.25% last week. Looks like they're going to cut again in December. And interestingly, the sell-off began in long-term bonds about 1 day before the Fed actually cut rates. So something to keep an eye on for sure. We're seeing weakness still in precious metals. We're entering the time band for a potential reversal here. Silver leading the way lower, usually a sign that the selling is not complete yet. So that's something to keep an eye on. Crude oil seeing a little bit of a bounce today after some initial selling at the open, but still a pretty sloppy market. I'm not ruling out one final breakdown while Saturn is still in the sign of Pisces. And interestingly, you know, we've seen crude oil struggle to find a range even as the dollar continues to strengthen, the yen hitting new lows against the dollar, which reinforces our idea that we discussed in the MMA investment retreat at Lake Bled, that the Japanese yen was completing a long-term high, or the dollar completing rather a long-term low against the Japanese yen in September. So you're seeing a nice rally come through on that. The euro collapsing to new lows for the year has some significant ramifications for the currency market. If you zoom out and look at the longer term picture here, it looks like we may be back near to par by mid next year. So something to keep an eye out for, especially considering that Uranus will be leaving the sign of Taurus. Taurus rules currencies. Obviously, it's going to retrograde back into Taurus again next year, but something to keep an eye on as well. And lastly, and certainly not least, Bitcoin absolutely exploding to new all-time highs. This move has been completely in alignment with our expectations, something we've been adamantly bullish about really since the low in August. And Bitcoin, I think, still has more upside here as we enter the third year in 2025 of a long-term cycle, something to be mindful of. But for now, it looks like the trend is up. Ethereum also starting to come back to life. There might be some more value to be had in the near term for Ethereum, but are looking for a rally back to its former all-time highs in the $4,800, $5,000 level for Ethereum. So that's pretty much what I wanted to discuss with you this week. Thank you so much for watching. We do have a very exciting and notable guest lined up to join us next week, so I hope you can join us. And of course, we are in forecast season now, so this is the time to reserve your copy of Forecast 2025. That's set to be out for delivery by the end of the year. So check that out at www.mmacycles.com. We did also just release the monthly cycles report, which is MMA's flagship report that's been in publication for over 40 years, where we update our readers on stocks, bonds, commodities, currencies, and more. So definitely recommend that you check that out. And then next week, we will be releasing the Shanghai and the monthly ETF reports. So all of those reports, our educational content, and other services can be found at www.mmacycles.com. Please like the video and hit subscribe. We do have weekly updates for you, and we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.